We'd like to have Luisa introduce our next speaker, Piero Tosi. We are very excited to have a member of Congressional staff speaking with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Suha. It's a great pleasure to be here looking at the Capitol and being able to hear from Piero Tosi, who has been working in the Congress for several decades supporting human rights. Piero Tosi works for Congressman Chris Smith, who is currently chair of the Congressional Executive Commission on China, and Piero is staff director. Piero?
Thank you, Luisa, and thank you to UHRP and also the other organizations. I see UAA and CFU represented here, and also the students. I mean, this is really great to see so many young people who are taking a stand and are getting engaged, and just the Athena Institute too, the great work that you're doing. When I was a college student way back in the day, South African divestment was the big thing, and it can really make a difference. And for you people, because there's a lot of confusion in the world, we see a lot of corporate leaders that are compromised on this issue, and it is important that this next generation have clarity of thought on what is happening in the People's Republic of China, the genocide that's being committed against the Uyghurs and other Central Asian peoples. I want to talk a little bit about, I know you've highlighted certain pieces of legislation, but also want to talk about a couple of other pieces of legislation. One that Mr. Smith, Chris Smith and Tom Tiffany introduced, H.R. 638, which would relink trade relations with China, what's called permanent normal trade relations, or most favored nations trade status, as it used to be called, with China's human rights record. You know, a mistake was made back in the 1990s when the two were delinked. Every year, the People's Republic of China had to show progress in human rights in order to maintain that trade status. However, when it was delinked, we saw what had been some progress that had been made towards understanding human rights go off in a different direction. It fell by the wayside, so we need to relink that. The other piece of legislation that we're going to be introducing most likely next week, again, Mr. Smith and Tom Cotton over in the Senate, has to do with organ harvesting. It was legislation that was introduced in the last Congress, and we also held a hearing on it, and what it revealed was absolutely horrific. And this affects a number of people, Falun Gong, other people, but particularly Uyghurs now who are being targeted. They're being targeted for their organs. And there are corporations, American corporations, that are complicit. You know, there was a company called Medtronics that had these ECMO devices that were used in the transfer of organs. It's like you don't ask questions as to what they're being used for. Or Fisher Thermoscientific that uses the DNA markers that are used in organ matches. It is absolutely horrific. It truly is cruel. We're going to introduce legislation this upcoming week that will address that. Also, I do want to speak, because I know this is mostly a Muslim audience. I want to speak from the heart here to my friends, and where you can have a voice. You know, one of the dirty secrets about this is that, you know, the Chinese Communist Party uses certain things to corrupt. They use money to corrupt, they use sex, they also use organs. And one of the reasons that there's a demand for Uyghur organs is because there are people in certain states, particularly the Gulf, that want halal organs, and that's a horrific thing. Now let me also tell you about something, because I know here in the audience, Elfidar and Torsney, I was with you, and Congressman Smith was with you, and you were outside of the White House protesting and on a hunger strike. And what you inspired us to do was to introduce a resolution. Mr. Smith and Tom Swazi, who's no longer in Congress, but has been a great friend of the Uyghurs, we introduced a resolution that called for our embassy in Geneva at the Human Rights Council to introduce a resolution that would hold the People's Republic of China accountable based on a report that was done that showed that crimes against humanity were being committed, the Bachelet report. Unfortunately, there was a vote at the Human Rights Council the next week, and again, here's where Muslim voices are so important. There were countries, Muslim countries, that voted with China Indonesia, Pakistan, the UAE, and Qatar voted against it. Malaysia abstained. You know, they would say neither yes nor no. Only Somalia stood with the Uyghur people. So it's very important that Muslim voices be raised on behalf of your brothers and sisters who are suffering horribly. Anyway, with that, I want to thank you, and I thank you for your witness, especially you students. It really is inspiring to see the next generation here. So thank you very much.
We're going to receive from the midst of the